Hey folks, this is JR with DIY Prepper. Welcome to the channel. And as I'm sure all of you are aware, there's concern going on right now regarding shortages, and we have experienced some here recently. There was the baby food thing, and we've experienced other shortages over the past couple years. Then also things like inflation, and then even there is some concern that there could be some sort of very big wide-scale food crisis. And instead of just talking about maybe why those things are or could happen, I wanted to give y'all some kind of real world things that you could do to help get yourself prepared for that. And then also, if maybe you're short on something once that actually starts, give you some ideas on how to get the things that you need while all that is going on. So really focus on getting as much as you can now. Of course, that's no big, new prepper idea or anything like that, but I would be emphasizing on things like food and water and other items that you use every day. Of course, we lived through the quarantine thing a couple years ago, so look back on that, think, was there anything I was short on that I still don't have enough today? And that would probably be a good starting point for you. And then another thing, if you haven't taken it care of, get your defense needs taken care of. So really, I would focus on food, water, daily essentials, defense, and also focus on high value, low cost items. So right now, if you're low on food storage, like I said in another video here recently, beans, rice, canned goods. Cheap food. Don't worry about stockpiling a bunch of like freeze-dried stuff that's going to be like $10 a pouch or $40, $50, $60 a can, however much it is. Focus on the stuff that you can afford so that you can get as much of it as possible. Then as far as gear goes, if you're short on money, don't try to get the latest, most expensive, cool guy piece of gear out there. Just get something that is good, it'll do the job, but doesn't break the bank. So an example of that would be something like ways to cook. You could spend $80 to $100 on a really nice propane stove, but if you could save a little bit of money and get something like maybe a spirit burner for 20 bucks and then a little stove to put it in, like a little stand to put it in that you could set a pot on for like 15, get yourself some fuel, you can save that money and be able to buy more food, which I think would probably be more beneficial in the long run. Now, of course, if you have money to do both, sure, go ahead and get the fancier, more convenient option. But I will say something like this, it's going to be portable. Also, it might be a little bit safer to use indoors. Of course, use common sense. Fire extinguisher, carbon monoxide alarm, crack a window, my bad. But then there's other examples as well. If you don't have like a good utility knife now, get yourself a Mora. Don't be going after the more expensive options if you're short on food. Okay, do not focus on expensive gear if you don't have those basic needs taken care of. I guess that's what I'm trying to say in my own little special Boomhauer kind of way. Also, now let's say you are in a situation where shortages do start to get worse, or there is a food crisis and you're missing a certain item. There are some stores that you want to avoid going to once that starts to kick off. And this is stuff that I noticed a couple years ago when people were panic buying everything and stuff like that. And of course, every situation is different. So if there is another one, it might be slightly different, but I do feel pretty comfortable saying that places like Costco and Sam's, those are going to be ground zero for a lot of panic buying, a lot of stressed out people. I know that, we saw footage of people going all Jerry Springer on one another over like bottled water and toilet paper, throwing punches over things like that. And usually it was at those types of stores because if you want to go stock up and get a whole bunch of something at once, those are the first places that people think of. Also, places like Walmart, Target, and larger grocery stores, like that's going to be different for different people. Like in South and Central Texas, H-E-B's, they're awesome grocery stores, but that's probably going to be the first place that people think of to go to when they need something if there's limited supplies. So those places will probably get hit pretty hard. If you live closer towards the East Coast, Publix or Publix, I think it's Publix, I don't know. But there's a store like that, that's probably going to be where people go get hit first. But also, you got to be aware of trends that are in your area. So take where I live, for example. I have a Walmart here and a Target here. Folks where I live, they tend to shop at Walmart. So that means that they are going to be out of stock faster than Target because not quite as many people shop there. And y'all, when I give like examples of stores, I'm not like promoting them or anything like that. These are just examples to kind of help y'all think through your particular situation. But there were situations where I would go to Walmart, they would be out of something because everybody panic bought and, scooped everything up, descended like locusts there at Walmart. But I was able to go to Target and they still had those things because the panic buying crowd didn't go over there because they usually shop at Walmart just as a matter of their normal everyday behavior. So be aware of things like that where you live. If you live maybe in a more, I guess, well-off, kind of higher-end area, it might be Target that gets hit first. I don't know, but just be aware of how things work where you live. And also be aware of other places to shop besides those stores that would likely get hit first. So things like dollar stores, Dollar General, Family Dollar, and then even Dollar Tree. They sell a lot of the same items as those big box stores, but since less people shop there on a regular basis, they might not get hit as hard, at least as quickly. Now, if a situation goes on long enough, of course, everybody's going to be hit, but it's very useful in the early stages of a situation to know the stores that sell certain items that maybe you don't think of first when you're thinking about going shopping. Also, if you live in an area that, I don't know of any better way to say this, but if you have like maybe ethnic markets in your area, like we have a lot of like Mexican grocery stores, you might have Asian markets near where you live. That might also be a good place to check if you're missing particular groceries. Then also other specialty grocery stores, places like health food stores. While they might be more expensive, they're not going to be the first place that people go look for things. An example of that would be after that big ice storm here in Texas in 2021. Like the Walmarts, the grocery stores, like the main ones here in town, they were all getting hit and, they were crowded and crazy and stuff. We walked right in to kind of a health food store. They sell, their stuff's a little bit more expensive, but we didn't have to deal with the crowd. We didn't have to fight people to get what we needed. We just walked in, got our stuff, and left while it was sheer pandemonium just, a few blocks over at some of these bigger, more well-known stores. Utilize your local butcher. Now is a very good time to utilize those local butchers. Also, produce stands that you may have locally. That's especially true if you live in an agricultural area. So when talking about folks like local butchers, farmers markets, produce stands, we're getting to the point where it might actually be cheaper to utilize those folks rather than go to a traditional grocery store because there's less people in between when it comes out of the field and when it gets on your table. Cutting out those middlemen might actually help lower prices. Like I know around here, just because I live in an area near agriculture, you can buy like the whole cow if you want to. Now that might not be practical for most people, but if you can chip in with some family, some friends, with some neighbors, that might be a good way to go. It might help you save some money. And of course, it's always a good idea to help support your local businesses. That's always nice. And then also be aware of essential products sold by stores that you don't normally think of as selling those products. So cleaning supplies, you can pick those up at hardware stores. Medications, you can pick those up, at least at my local store, at Bed Bath & Beyond. That's not a place I go all that often. I've just happened to wander through there with my wife a couple of times, but they sell meds. It's kind of weird they don't have like a full service pharmacy where you can pick up prescriptions, but they do have basic medications, antiseptics, things like that, where if people are, sacking your local Walmart or your local Target trying to get that stuff, you might be able to fly under the radar and pick up those items there. And if you haven't done so already, it's a really good idea to do what you can to be more self-sufficient so that you don't have to depend on outside sources entirely for your food. And a good way to do that, of course, is gardening. It's a little bit too late to start things like peppers and tomatoes in most places. There are some places that have a really honking long growing season. But it doesn't hurt to get what you need to garden so that you can take advantage of some cooler weather crops, things like broccoli, kale, certain kinds of lettuce, carrots, so that when the time comes to plant those, you can just hit the ground running. Then hunting is also good. I know that there's some places in the world where that's not really allowed. Like I know I have some folks over in Europe and certain places that's a no-go. But if you live in an area that allows it, like most of the United States, and you haven't done so already, get what you need to do that. Get your training, get your license, get your tools, whether you're, firearm hunting, trapping, whatever the case may be. Get what you need to do that. And then also, if y'all want to see more videos about types of foods that you should be storing in, foods that last forever, y'all click on these. Y'all have a good one. Thanks again.